After keeping my dinosaurs breeding around the blacksmith all this time, I finally decided to create an area for them to do their business. In doing so, I was also much more quickly collecting eggs and gaining exactly what I needed to begin crafting my first ever kibble inside of Ark. However, now that you've liked and subscribed, let's get straight into this episode. Now that the greenhouse was all complete, I could finally turn my attention to housing up all of the dinos inside and around my blacksmith that I was using to collect their eggs. With many more eggs still needed and not even having an Oviraptor yet, there was still a lot to do, so to start things off, I headed out with Opal to gather up as much stone as possible. Like, so much stone. Getting back though, I collected more eggs before crafting what I thought to be so many stone foundations, only to realise later that I was completely wrong for what I wanted to build. I was attempting to try and build a more round shaped structure instead of the rather rectangular theme I had so far, so I began to place them down, but before long, it appeared that I had none left and I was very far off completing my hatchery. This meant that much more farming was needed, both lots of thatch, more wood from the beavers, and so much more stone. Getting back, I remembered I had gathered up some fur, so to make sure that we had enough, I crafted up the armor before making as many more foundations as possible, checking on the fertilizers, gathering more eggs before finally getting back to building the structure and hoping that I could at least finish the overall outline. Finally, we now knew just where the hatchery would go. Not sticking out anywhere, however, I decided to bring in the foundations a little more, whilst leaving the centre as grassland so my egg laying dinos weren't entirely factory farmed. They definitely won't be organic though. As all the foundations were now placed, I got to work on the railings and ramps leading down into the middle, with the help of the beavers once again and the many rocks surrounding me, until finally, I placed down some walls, now having it completely closed off from predators, and with a stone dinosaur gate to help, I begin to move in my egg makers. Starting with the Moschops, then the Dodos, until finally the Dimorphodons, they were all set up, and I had my first ever egg farm, collecting my first real batch, and getting excited to eventually have kibble in the near future. Having a look around also, I spotted an Oviraptor, and having a lot of eggs, I decided that I was going to have to tame them up, knowing that these would allow your dinos to lay even more eggs, increasing my yield, which, whilst my dino count wasn't too high currently, would help out and speed things up massively. Once I had carried it back and knocked it out, I waited around, making sure they had enough, whilst collecting more eggs, until, not long after, Ovis was tamed, leaving me with a new dinosaur, a finished hatchery with the egg production on the climb, and now some storage space for our eggs. However, I realised unless I was to feed all of my dinos manually, I would need to set up some troughs and farm some food for them, but that would have to wait until next time. So if you'd like to see more of me inside of Ark, be sure to catch up on the previous episodes or my live streams,